Welcome, welcome. Today, a simple little top called the cowl back. I'm so excited to bring you this project today. It is just so much fun. Whenever I have a project and the thinking it takes longer than the sewing, that's when I know I'm going to love this project because it seems so simple and yet there's things to think about. So in doing this, what we're really doing is a cowl neck back. So many times you see a cowl neck in the back. It's way low and it's too dramatic and it's, but it's great for just a little get together, a little party where you just want to wear a t-shirt, you want to be casual, but you want just another little oomph to the t-shirt. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a cowl neck back. And I just, again, this is so much fun and so simple. I hope you enjoy. The goal is to get anyone who wants to make this for themselves. I promise you, you can do this. This is just way too easy. All right, so let's talk first about the pattern, the fabric, etc., and blending it all together. The first thing I'm going to do to kind of keep it simple is I'm going to use two patterns. I'm going to use the front of 550, and I'm going to use it for the back, and you're going to see it works really well. And I'm going to use the front of 195 and the sleeve of 195 for the front and the sleeve. So there's only three pieces. The cowl neck front is going to be the back, and then the front of 195 and the sleeve are going to be that. It's a knit, so I have to keep in mind that when I'm using a knit, this pattern is for a woven. My cowl is a woven because what I can't do is I can't have a negative ease in a cowl. A negative ease in a cowl means you get no cowl because it pulls it out. So you have to have ease in order for that cowl to drape. And so that's why that's made for a woven. I can do it in a knit, just don't go off to the negative ease in choosing your size. Think that through. All I did was I used the same size front that I normally, actually that's not true. I went down one size in the front I normally use for the front, and I used my same size in the sweater set. And that's, you're gonna see, works really well. Okay, so picking out my pieces, I have my sleeve, my knit sleeve, because I'm using a knit, and I have my front of my sweater set, my normal front that I make, and then I have the front of my cowl neck pattern. And again, I went down a size on that simply because I don't need ease at all. I don't need any ease. I don't need negative ease, but I don't need any ease. So those are my three pieces. And then I'm using my sweater set back to draw an armhole onto my cowl neck front because my cowl neck front is woven. All right, so we'll do all this. All right, really fun, really simple to do. So when I'm combining two patterns, what I have to do when I'm doing that is think about where do they sew together. And in this particular case, they sew together at the shoulder seam. So I'm going to compare the shoulder seams. My cowl neck pattern is narrower than my sweater set pattern. So I'm opting to, I want to make it wider. So I'm going to bring my cowl neck up a little bit farther and then blend it into the regular neckline. There's no collar, so I don't have to worry about a collar. They're both just plain necklines. The other area I have to think about is the side seam because they sew together at the side seam. So I'm going to close up my French dart. I'm going to compare this front to this back to the side together, and there's about an inch difference where the sweater set is longer than the cowl on the sizes I'm using. So that I'm going to lengthen it anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But that means I'm going to add, and I'm going to write it down just so I remember, I'm going to add 5 inches to my sweater set, and I'm going to add 6 inches to my cowl. All right? Easy enough? Everybody got it so far? All right, the sleeve I don't need any changes for. Now, when I go to do my sweater set, when I go to change the armhole, I'll show you that in a little bit. But first, we've done all that pattern work so far. I know what I'm going to do. I want to look at my fabric because what I'm going to do is I'm choosing, this is a viscose knit and it's got great drape. It's got stretch in both directions. I can lay the cowl anywhere I want to. It's not going to make a difference. It's just perfect. The colors are perfect. This is like a teal, a rust, a beige. It's just got all the colors I want to in it because I want it to go with my leather jacket. So it's perfect for that. And also what I love about it is it's a cowl, and a cowl is soft and a cowl is drapey, and I love the print. It's circles, it is drapey, it is soft. I don't want to do some angular pattern onto a cowl because it's kind of a mismatch. It's a masculine fabric and a feminine pattern, and I want both of those to match. And I know we've talked about that before. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cowl neck pattern onto the front, onto the fold. I folded my fabric. I'm using 2 yards of fabric, and I folded it right sides together. So we're going to get a little up close and personal here, and I'll show you some differences of things you can do. All right, so when we talk about the cowl, I'm just going to put it on the fold. Remember, I'm going to add 6 inches down here, so I'm going to measure and make sure I have enough for my 6 inches, which I do. The bottom of this cowl has a little bit of curve to it. And I'm going to keep a little bit of curve, but not quite this dramatic. There's actually a 2-inch difference here. I'm going to add 6 inches to here and 5 inches to here. So as long as I have enough room for that, I'll be okay. So I'm going to scoot this down just a little bit just to not waste my fabric. But here on the fold line, what I want you to understand is there's some fun variables that I can do with the cowl. I would recommend you, if you've never made the cowl, make it up once without any changes. It's a nice cowl. It's not real dramatic. It's not real full. It's just a really pretty cowl. But what I can do is if I want it to have a lower drape, I can pull it away from the front. So the farther I pull this away, the lower the drape will go. If I wanted to have more cowl, I can cut it up higher and it will have more cowl. I'm going to pull it away. So it'll drape a little bit lower. It's the back. I can be a little more risque in the back than the front. So I'm going to pull this away 1 inch at the top of my cowl to tapering to nothing here at the bottom of my cowl. And I'm going to cut that. So let's first cut out the cowl. And let's remember this is the back. And keep in mind all the variables that I said I was going to do. Here, remember the shoulder seam? I'm going to come up narrower, so I cut that to be narrower. I'm going to use my weights to keep my pattern still. The armhole itself, before I cut the armhole, this is where I'm going to bring in the back, because this is the armhole I want. I'm using a knit, and I'm going to compare here. I'm going to walk it around. The notch is right at the same, but it's coming up narrower, about 1/2 inch, and that's what I want. I'm actually going to cut this just a little bit narrower here, just to remember that the cowl is a woven, and so I know my armhole needs to be a little bit smaller for the knit. And I'm also going to come up just a little bit, like 1/2 inch, just to make sure. I can always cut it down if I need to. And then I'm going to go right back out to where I was. And remember here at the side, I'm going to add, and I wrote it down so I could remember, I'm going to add my 6 inches. All right, and that 6-inch mark is right there. And then I'm only going to, I'm going to do about 5 inches here. And then I'll just cut these in together so that they have a nice little flow to them. All right, so there's no markings on a cowl, so I don't need the pattern. I don't need to transfer any markings. This is what I say. It's all so much fun. That's it. That's my cowl. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to cut is my sleeve. I'm not going to make any changes to that, and I'm going to cut it just like it is. This is the pattern I use, but on my sleeve, I always have to add length. So do normally whatever changes you do to your pattern. And again, the sleeve doesn't have any markings, so I don't really need that either. So all that's left to do is cut the front. That's why I say this is so much faster is actually sewing it than it will be anything else, which I think is just too funny. I don't have enough length for that. So what I'm going to actually do is come over in here where I've got more length, and I'll fold that. I'll put it like this, and that will give me the extra that I need. Okay. Make sure I've got enough width, and I'll go ahead and cut that. And on this front, I'm not going to make any changes. Remember, this is exactly as it is. And this I'm cutting 5 inches longer, so I'm going to be sure and mark that. then I'm going to cut straight across. And because I've sewn the sweater set enough times to, on my cup size, I actually know where to start sewing. I know all of that. So I actually don't need my front either. When I go sew, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew 3 things. I'm going to sew the shoulder seam. I'm going to finish the neck edge. And one thing about the neck edge is right in the middle, and you'll see all this, but right in the middle of the cowl, and I've shown this before, right there where it comes to that point, when you go to finish it, I'm going to add a little zipper section in there. And the reason that zipper section is it works as a little weight and holds down the neckline terrific. So I'm just going to hem it, serge it 3/8 of an inch, turn it under, and then put just a little weight right there in the center, so it'll act as a really nice weight and hold it down. And then I'm going to sew in the sleeves, do the French darts, do the shoulder seams, finish off the neck edge, put the little zipper right there, sew in the sleeves, do the shoulder seams, and then hem it. And that's it. It's that quick and easy. So that's why I say, you can do this. Just a couple seams. We're going to have this beautiful cowl, back, neck. Let's go sew. So even though this is a cowl back, it works great with all the things we just made, which is our jean jacket. So this is another great little feature. Then when you take your jean jacket off, you've got that beautiful cowl back, and it just looks great. It just adds a little touch to a t-shirt. And then remember when we cut it out, you see that my back's a little bit longer than my front. It just kind of curves in the back, and that's exactly what I wanted. So it's just so easy and fun to do. Happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns.